Hey everybody, Pete Harris. I want to ask you a question. What is your opinion of David Lee Roth? Is he one of the greatest showmen of all time? One of the greatest frontmen? Is he a irreplaceable vocalist for Van Halen and solo? Or is he the clown prince of rock and roll, the court jester? Is he all of the above? I would argue he is all of the above. And more than that, I would argue that he's actually a Renaissance man. And I really mean that, a Renaissance man. In 1997, David Lee Roth wrote a book, Crazy from the Heat. Long been out of print, but you can still get copies like this paperback I just got on Amazon recently. In it, he really discusses and breaks down different episodes from his life, and you really get to start to get a better picture of the man behind the goofy persona and the high kicks. This is a guy who really values learning and values experience and has spent his entire life, as opposed to pursuing the rock star lifestyle and that kind of thing, which he certainly did, and in excess in some places, but he really spent a lot of time traveling the Amazon, climbing Mount Everest. You know, in recent years after this book, he's done things like move to Japan, begin to learn the language, studied sword making and Japanese printmaking, and just all kinds of neat things. He's a guy really driven by experience and learning, for learning's sake. So what I'm going to do is, since this book's been out of print for so long, I'm going to do a series of videos where I read portions of it. Maybe not the whole book, but certainly, more of the highlighted passages and a good majority of the book, and I'm going to break it up into several videos. This way, if you don't have a copy, you can check in my channel every few days and get a new portion of the book read to you with my soothing, dulcet tones. But so if you can stand my Georgia accent and you want to hear more from David Lee Roth, Crazy from the Heat, this is the place to be. So be sure to subscribe to the channel and tune in for more coming from David Lee Roth. I'm always hurting. Hurt my back? Somebody says. Getting a little older? I says, I wish. I've hurt since day one. Not 3 days of my life have gone by in professional music for 20 years that I didn't have a toe that was screwing around with me, a knee that was ungrateful, a backache that threatened catastrophe. Gets very quiet at that moment. You're inside your knee. You go, fuck you, knee. I work with you all these seasons. Here we are on stage, and you give up on me? Knee says, nah, man, you just did 14 nights in a row. I'm going home. I go, fuck you. I have Motrin. I started jumping around on the Van Halen stage in 1979 at the Oakland Coliseum. I didn't have my regular platform shoes, and I borrowed some Capezio dance shoes from somebody and just started flipping around. All those kicks, by the way, are designed for a specific reason. When they banned weapons throughout the Orient, all these martial arts really blossomed. So when you see the jump spinning back kick, that's designed to knock somebody off of a horse. We did some sequential photography with a strobe light where you see multiple images, and they had a ballerina as my stand-in for all the test shots. And she made a nice, graceful, curved arc. When I jumped, it went straight up and straight across. It looked like it sounded. It was savage. It took so many hundreds of hours of preparation to be able to pull that out of my hat. I know the floorboards of every major arena, stadium, and venue in the free world, from bending over to stretch and stare at the floor for hours at a time before every show. My feet hurt constantly. I would sit in the doorway of the tour bus, and we wouldn't have any water, so Big Ed, my assistant, would pour Perrier on my feet, and I'd patch up all the blisters. All those moves were not gymnastics. They were martial arts, and I approached them with that discipline. They had to be very real. As a result, every day something would snap. I broke my foot doing the big split jump that's on the back cover of the second Van Halen album. I was jumping off a drum riser onto cement, and I snapped a bone. Inside is a picture of me in a cast with a cane. That's how I sang Somebody Get Me a Doctor in the studio. I went to Jack Curran, the trainer for the Los Angeles Lakers, and I learned how to tape up my feet like a ball player. I constantly have shin splints. I was in pain, but I romanticized it as my equivalent of a guitarist's bleeding fingers. Now, I know my engine inside and out. Not to say I don't floor it and drive it right off into the hay on more than a frequent occasion, but for showtime, You can't eat for 6 to 7 hours in advance, which usually means by 2:30 in the afternoon you're dangerously low in blood sugar. So you can balance that out with some amino acids. Watch the smoking, warm up. Do scales in the bathroom. Took a lot of singing lessons. Didn't really assist in my sound, but I never lost what I got. I would always push myself to the point of major exhaustion. Would come off the stage so dehydrated we'd have to have paramedics there, and they would have to bag me while I ate dinner. I'd sit there with 3 saline tubes in my arm while I ate. I'd be so dehydrated I'd clench up, or oxygen on the side of the stage, what have you. I took great pride in that I could max it so hard that I would pass out. One night in Memphis, I smashed a guitar on stage, and a piece flipped up, and that's why I have this scar underneath my eye. Finished the show, and they bandaged me up. Everybody was gagging. I finished the show, walked to the side of the stage, passed out. When I woke up, I was on the bed in the emergency room. They didn't want to wake me up, but the call sheet was just sitting on my chest. Under the occupation, the nurse had written, quote-unquote, circus performer. Ultimately, to test all this martial arts theory, I joined up with Benny Urquidez, Benny the Jet, kickboxing, full contact. It was in 1982. I did full contact training 5 mornings a week plus road work, my first experience with running. Now I can run the marathon. Then I ran 6 blocks and felt like throwing up. Got in the ring half a dozen times. Some of the road crew would come down and cheer me on. It was glorious. I had the time and wherewithal to invest in serious training, so I was always a little bit ahead of the curve. But I played in front of 375,000 people at the US Festival in pain. My knee was killing me. If you look at the pictures, I had a piece of something wrapped around my knee. Sometimes I wonder if this is not like a defensive maneuver, metaphysically. An unwillingness to go forward? Or provide myself with sufficient distraction that I could burn calories in that area as opposed to just being nervous about a show. Half my calories would go to my knee. When I played in Vegas, we did 10 shows in a row, direct, and I never left the stage once. I'd hurt my leg a few weeks before the show, lugging my kayak out of Florida storm waters, and pulled a muscle, what the cowboys call lumbago. Hurt from the small of my back all the way down to my ankle. I'd wake up with my whole leg screaming. I couldn't sleep. I'd wake up 5 times a night. And this was a month and a half before the actual showtime. Then I get to showtime. I have several tattoos on my ankle. One of them is Huckleberry Finn in silhouette underneath the full moon. In the New York City's in the background. Therapist put so much electricity through me to get this leg going again with the electrodes on the ankle that it burned a permanent hole in the moon. One of the best injuries I ever sustained was when Van Halen played at the famous Piper Club in Rome. The Beatles had played there. It looked like all those early 60s movies with the very low ceilings with the old pipes. They were shooting us for a television show, one of those ready, steady, go kind of pop shows. We do a couple run-throughs because it's going to be for live television. I determined the best way to go is they start off with black, the lights are off, you count 1, 2, 3, and I would jump up and the lights would come on while I was in midair. So we run through it a couple times and there's a big mirror ball about 15 feet above my head. Everything works beautifully. We get ready, going to shoot it for real now. The stage is pitch black. We're waiting for the live feed, so it's 38 seconds in the dark. Nobody tells me that they're lowering the mirror ball until it's like 7 feet off the deck. So I get down in the crouch and I'm ready. I'm all hunched up on the floor, and they say 1, 2, 3, go. The lights come on and I launch myself skyward. You know the feeling when catastrophe is unavoidable and everything goes in slow motion, and you're just like an innocent bystander watching it all happen? My nose saw the ball first and said in very slow motion, "Hey, ball." And the ball said, "Hey, nose." Cut instantly back into full-time fast reel motion. BAM! I just crunched my nose big time. Slammed into it full speed ahead. Come down on stage with my head in my hands, bleeding all over the place. Had to discontinue the shoot. They put me in the car. We rush off to the main general hospital in Rome, which is like, I don't know, what, Allied Occupational Forces. Quickly, boil some water and bring me some fresh towels, complete with the gurneys with the big wheels from all your favorite war movies. Doctor greets me in a private room. He's wearing the surgeon smock, which goes down below his knees, and he's supposed to wear it backwards, drawstring it in the back, right? He's wearing it front ways, and he's got no undershirt on, so he looks like me, with chest hair poking out. He's got a plunging neckline. He's smoking a cigarette. He puts the cigarette in his mouth, and he tilts my head, and he looks at the nose. He oohs and ahs, and he goes, "Okay, absolutely he needs surgery immediately. We check him in the hospital right now. I do surgery, everything's okay in maybe 6-7 days. I said, I want a conflicting opinion. We were due to play what's called the Pink Pop Festival in Holland. It's about 65,000 people. I says, oh man, I think we've got to cancel the Pink Pop Festival next week. I'm hurting bad. Okay, downtime. Everybody's off, gigs cancel. Everybody goes their own way for a week.